If you listen closely to the history of the ancient world, you will not hear the clash of swords or the roar of the Colosseum crowds. Instead, you will hear the scratching of a stylus on wax. You will hear the heavy rustle of wool robes against stone floors. You will hear the silence of a door closing. Tonight, we travel back 2,000 years to the city of Rome. We are not here for the emperors or the wars. We are here to witness a private transition. We are here to watch a young woman named Livia prepare for the most significant, terrifying, and legally binding day of her life, her wedding day. This is not a story of romance as we know it today. It is a story of duty, of ancient contracts, and of the slow, methodical rituals that turned a person into property. Close your eyes. Let the modern world fade away. Let the noise of the traffic be replaced by the wind blowing through the cypress trees on the Aventine Hill. We are stepping into the atrium of a Roman villa. The year is 100 AD. The night is quiet, and the ritual is about to begin. The city of Rome is never truly silent. Even in the deepest hours of the night, when the moon hangs high and pale over the Tiber River, there is a hum. It is the breathing of 1,000,000 people living in a maze of brick and marble. It is the distant creak of a cartwheel on the Via Appia, bringing vegetables from the countryside for the morning markets. It is the murmur of the river sliding past muddy banks. It is the sound of the wind moving through the arches of the aqueducts that stretch like stone skeletons across the plains. But inside the house of the senator, the silence is heavy. It is a thick, expectant silence, the kind that fills a room before a storm breaks. In a small cubiculum, a bedroom near the back of the house, a young woman sits on the edge of her bed. Her name is Livia. By modern standards, she is barely a teenager, perhaps 14 years old, but in the eyes of Rome, she is a woman grown. She is a vessel of potential, a piece of political architecture, and tomorrow she will be transferred from the authority of her father to the authority of a husband she barely knows. The room is dim. The only light comes from a single oil lamp made of terracotta. The small flame dances on a wick of flax, casting long, trembling shadows against the plaster walls. The walls are painted with frescoes of garden scenes, faded green leaves, small red birds, and trellis fences that vanish into a painted distance. Livia has looked at these walls every night of her life. She knows every crack in the plaster, every brush stroke of the artist. Tonight is the last time she will see them as Livia, the daughter.
She stands up. The floor is cold beneath her bare feet. It is a mosaic floor made of thousands of tiny white and black stones arranged in a geometric pattern. The coldness of the stone travels up her legs, grounding her in the reality of the moment. She walks slowly across the room to a small niche carved into the wall. This is the lararium, the household shrine. Every Roman home has one. It is the spiritual heart of the family, the place where the lares, the guardian spirits of the house, reside. In the flickering lamplight, Livia sees the small bronze statues of the gods. They stand stiff and silent, holding their drinking horns and offering bowls. They have watched over her since she was an infant. They are the spirits of her father's ancestors, the invisible protectors of this specific bloodline. Livia reaches into a small wooden box on the shelf. Her hands are shaking, just slightly. She pulls out a doll. It is not a soft toy. It is made of bone and ivory, carved with articulate limbs that can move at the joints. It has a small, serene face with painted eyes that stare blankly into the darkness. Livia holds the doll in her palm. It feels smooth and cool, polished by years of touch. She remembers the games she played in the sunny peristyle garden, making the doll walk along the rim of the fountain, whispering stories to it that no one else heard. This doll represents her childhood.
It represents the time when she belonged only to herself. With a slow, deliberate movement, she places the doll on the altar of the shrine. Next to it, she places a small ball made of leather strips and a set of knuckle bones used for gambling games. Then, she reaches to her neck. Her fingers find the clasp of a gold chain. Hanging from it is a lunula, a crescent moon charm. She has worn this amulet since she was a baby to ward off the evil eye and protect her from sickness. It is warm from her skin. She unclasps the gold. It slides from her neck with a soft hiss of metal against skin. She lays it down on the cold stone of the altar. The transaction is complete. In Rome, you cannot simply become something new. You must first ceremonially destroy what you were. By leaving these objects here, Livia is telling the spirits, the girl who played with these toys is gone. She does not exist anymore. She turns away from the shrine. She does not look back. To look back would be bad luck. On a cedar chest at the foot of her bed lies a garment. It seems to glow with a ghostly whiteness in the dark room. This is the tunica recta, the straight tunic. It is not a dress she bought, it is a dress she made. For months, Livia stood at the great vertical loom in the central hall of the house. Her fingers are still calloused from the work. She remembers the rhythm of the weaving, the shuttle passing back and forth, the heavy thud of the beater packing the wool threads tight. The tunica recta is woven in one piece from top to bottom. It has no seams at the shoulders. It is made according to a tradition that is centuries old, dating back to a time when Romans were simple shepherds living in huts, not masters of the world. The wool is rough, unbleached, and pure. Livia runs her hand over the fabric. It feels coarse and heavy. It smells of lanolin and lavender flowers that were packed in the chest to keep the moths away. This tunic is not designed for comfort. It is designed for symbolism. When she puts it on tomorrow morning, she will be wrapping herself in the expectations of her ancestors. She sits back down on the bed. The mattress is stuffed with wool and reeds, supported by ropes stretched across a wooden frame. It creaks softly as she shifts her weight. Outside, the wind picks up. It whistles through the narrow window, carrying the scent of wood smoke and damp earth. Rome smells of many things: garlic, sweat, incense, and the river, but tonight the air feels clean and cold. Livia lies down and pulls the blanket up to her chin. She tries to close her eyes, but her mind is racing. She thinks of the man, Gaius. She has seen him only 3 times. He is 30 years old, a man with a serious face and hands that are stained with ink from his work in the law courts. He is a stranger, and yet, by tomorrow night, she will sleep in his house, under his roof, subject to his gods. The anxiety is a physical weight in her chest, but beneath the anxiety, there is a strange, numb acceptance. This is the way of things. This is the way of the world. The river flows to the sea. The sun rises in the east, and a daughter leaves her father's house. There is no other path. The tracks were laid down hundreds of years before she was born. She watches the flame of the oil lamp. It is getting lower now. The oil is nearly gone. The shadows on the wall stretch longer and longer, reaching out like dark fingers towards the bed. Flicker, flicker, darkness. The lamp dies. The room is plunged into absolute black. Now there is only the sound of Livia's own breathing, slow and steady in the dark. She must sleep. She must rest, for when the sun rises, the silence will end, and the theater of the wedding will begin. She drifts, floating in the space between the past and the future, waiting for the dawn to break over the 7 hills.
The transition from night to morning in Rome is not sudden. It is a slow, gray affair. Before the sun actually breaks over the horizon, the sky above the Aventine Hill turns the color of a bruised plum, then fades into a pale, watery slate. Livia wakes before her eyes open. The first thing she notices is the temperature. The air in the room has cooled during the night, settling into the stone floor and the plaster walls. She lies still under her wool blanket, listening. The breathing of the house has changed. The silence of the deep night has been replaced by the soft, rhythmic sounds of early morning industry. Somewhere in the courtyard, a broom made of birch twigs is sweeping against the stone. Swish, swish, swish. It is a steady, hypnotic sound. Further away, in the kitchen area, there is the dull clatter of pottery and the cracking of wood as the hypocaust fires are stoked to life. The slaves are already awake. The machinery of the household is turning. Livia pushes the blanket aside. Today she does not linger. Today she does not lie in bed and daydream. The moment her feet touch the cold mosaic floor, the ritual begins. She is no longer the owner of her own time. From this moment until late tonight, every movement she makes, every piece of clothing she touches, and every word she speaks will be dictated by a script written centuries ago. The door to her room opens. It is not a servant who enters, but her mother. In the Roman world, displays of emotion are controlled. There is no weeping, no rushing forward with hugs. Her mother's face is composed, a mask of dignity, dignitas. She carries a small silver basin filled with water, and over her arm she holds a linen towel. They look at each other in the dim light. There is a silent acknowledgement between them. Her mother was once a bride standing in a cold room. Her grandmother was once a bride. It is an unbroken chain of women stretching back to the founding of the city, all of them waking up on a morning just like this, preparing to leave the house of their fathers. The bath is the first step. It is not merely about cleanliness, it is about purification. The water in the basin has been warmed, and it smells faintly of rosemary and olive oil. Livia stands in the center of the room, shivering slightly as the warm sponge touches her skin. Her mother washes her shoulders, her arms, her feet. The water drips onto the stone floor with small echoing splashes. Plip, plip, plip. It feels as though they are washing away the identity of the girl, the dust of the garden where she played, the ink stains on her fingers from her lessons, the scent of her own room. All of it is being scrubbed away. She is being made blank. She is being prepared to be written upon by a new house, a new husband, a new name. Once she is dried with the rough linen, the tunica recta is brought forward. In the daylight, the tunic looks even more imposing than it did the night before. It is a long, tubular garment of white wool. As Livia raises her arms and the wool slides down over her body, she feels its weight. It is heavy. It scratches slightly against her skin. It falls all the way to her feet, pooling slightly on the floor. This is not a garment for running. It is not a garment for play. It is a garment for standing still. It restricts her stride. It forces her to move slowly, with measure and gravity. It forces her to walk like a matron. Now comes the binding. Her mother produces the cingulum. It is a belt, but not of leather or silk. It is made from the wool of an ewe, a female sheep. This connects Livia to the earth, to the flocks that graze on the hillsides of Italy, to the pastoral roots of the Roman people. Her mother wraps the belt around Livia's waist, but she does not tie a simple bow. Her fingers work quickly, twisting the wool over and under, creating a complex interlocking knot. This is the nodus herculanus, the knot of Hercules. Why Hercules? Because in Roman mythology, Hercules was a hero of immense strength, but he was also the guardian of wedded life. He had 70 children. He was a symbol of fertility and power. By tying this knot, Livia's mother is invoking that power. She is sealing her daughter's body. Livia looks down at the knot. It is tight against her ribs. It presses against her diaphragm when she breathes. It is a physical reminder that she is bound. Tonight, only her husband will be permitted to untie this knot. It is a challenge. It is a claim.
Livia sits on a wooden stool. The room is brighter now, the sun having fully risen. The dust motes dance in the shafts of light entering through the high window. The door opens again. The ornatrix enters. The ornatrix is a slave, a specialist in beauty. She is a woman of skill, her hands quick and precise. She carries a box of ivory combs, ribbons of wool, and jars of pomade. But in her right hand, she carries something that looks out of place in a lady's bedroom. It is a spear, the Hasta Calabaris. It is not a replica, it is a real weapon. The shaft is bent, perhaps broken off from a longer pole, but the head is iron, dark, pitted, and sharp. It has seen battle. It may have taken a life. The rust on the metal tells a story of rain and blood. In the silence of the room, the presence of the spear is jarring. It brings the violence of the empire into the intimacy of the dressing room. The ornatrix steps behind Livia. She does not smile. This is a serious ritual. She lifts the spear. The iron tip hovers near Livia's face. Livia can smell the metallic scent of the iron, sharp and tangy, mixing with the smell of the rosemary water. Why a spear? The Romans were a people of war. They believed that the first brides of Rome, the Sabine women, were captured by force. Marriage, in its deepest roots, was seen as a form of abduction. The spear is a memory of that violence. It is a symbol that the bride is being taken, conquered, and placed under a new authority. It is also a wish that she might be the mother of brave sons who will one day hold spears of their own. The ornatrix lowers the point. The cold metal touches Livia's scalp. Livia closes her eyes. She feels the heavy, cold iron slide through her hair. Scrape. The sound of the metal against her hair is distinct. The spear is used to part her thick, dark hair into distinct sections. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is the sex crines, the 6 tresses. It is an ancient hairstyle worn only by brides and the Vestal virgins. It marks her as sacred. It marks her as untouchable to all but one. The spear is laid aside with a heavy clunk on the table. The violence is over. Now the architecture begins. The ornatrix takes the 6 locks of hair and begins to wind them. She twists them into coils, piling them high on Livia's head. She binds them with vitae, woolen ribbons. The hairstyle is elaborate, towering, and stiff. It pulls at Livia's scalp. It changes the shape of her face, pulling her skin taut, making her eyes look wider, more alert. Livia looks into the polished bronze mirror held up by her mother. The reflection that stares back is not the girl who fell asleep last night. The soft hair that used to fall around her shoulders is gone, disciplined into a rigid structure. The white tunic makes her look like a statue, a marble figure placed in a niche. She is becoming an icon. She is becoming the ideal. But there is one final piece, the most important piece, the item that will complete the transformation and hide her from the world. Her mother turns to the cedar chest and lifts out a mass of fabric. It glows in the morning light. It is the color of the sunrise, the color of the hearth fire, the color of deep, burning amber. It is the flammeum.
The room is silent. All eyes are on the bundle of fabric in her mother's hands. It is the flammeum. To the modern eye, a veil is often a whisper of white lace, transparent and delicate.
But the Roman veil is nothing like that. It is a substantial, heavy piece of rectangular cloth, large enough to cover a person from head to toe, and the color is unforgettable. It is the color of luteum. In Latin, luteum is the color of the yolk of an egg. It is the color of the marigold flower. It is the deep, rich, vibrating orange of a fire burning at its steady heart. It is a color that commands attention. In a world of white marble and unbleached wool, this veil is a shout of vitality. Her mother steps forward and lifts the cloth high. It catches the morning sun, glowing like a lantern. Gently, she drapes it over Livia's head. The world instantly changes for Livia. One moment, she is looking at the cracked plaster of the wall and the dust motes dancing in the light. The next, she is enclosed in a tent of amber. The veil covers her high, intricate hairstyle. It falls over her shoulders, down her back, and drapes around her arms. It frames her face, but obscures her vision. Everything she sees now is tinted with saffron light. The sharp edges of the room soften. The faces of her mother and the ornatrix become golden, hazy shapes. She breathes in. The air inside the veil is warmer. It smells of the dye, a mixture of saffron and weld, and the faint scent of the cedar chest. It feels protective. It feels like a shield. There is a specific reason for this veil. By wearing it, Livia is mimicking the Flaminica Dialis, the wife of the high priest of Jupiter. The Flaminica was a woman who was forbidden by religious law to ever divorce. Her marriage was eternal, broken only by death. By wearing this costume, Livia is stepping into that same shadow. She is signaling that this bond is not temporary, it is ironclad. She looks down at her feet. The final touch is waiting. Her mother kneels and slides the sochi onto Livia's feet. These are soft leather shoes, slippers really, dyed the exact same shade of yellow-orange as the veil. Livia stands up. She is fully dressed. The transformation is complete. The girl is gone, hidden somewhere beneath the layers of white wool and orange fire. She looks like a candle flame standing straight and still in the center of the room. She feels heavy, weighed down by the history she is wearing, but also strangely calm. The heat of the veil makes her drowsy, insulating her from the fear. "It is time," her mother whispers. The door to the bedroom opens. Livia steps out into the corridor. The floor changes from the simple mosaic of the bedroom to the grander, polished stone of the hallway. She can hear the sound of the crowd now, a low hum of voices, a murmur of conversation that drifts from the front of the house. It sounds like the ocean, a steady tide of social expectation waiting for her. She walks slowly. The tunica recta restricts her stride, forcing her to take small, measured steps. Swish, step, swish, step. The sound of the wool rubbing against itself is a rhythm that calms her racing heart. They reach the end of the corridor. The heavy curtains are pulled back. Livia steps into the atrium. The atrium is the heart of the Roman house. It is a vast, high-ceilinged hall. In the center is the impluvium, a shallow square pool filled with water, catching the rain that falls through the compluvium, the open square in the roof above. Today, the sky above the opening is a perfect, hard blue. The sunlight pours down in a solid shaft, illuminating the water. The room is packed. There are dozens of people here. There are relatives from the countryside, their togas smelling of dust and travel. There are clients of her father, men who depend on him for business, standing respectfully near the pillars. There are friends of the groom. The air is thick with the smell of perfumed oils, unwashed wool, and the burning herbs from the small altar in the corner. When Livia enters, the talking stops.
The silence ripples outward from the door, silencing the crowd row by row, until the only sound is the water dripping into the pool. Drip, drip.
Hundreds of eyes turn to her, but they do not see Livia. They see the bride. The orange veil glows in the shaft of sunlight, a beacon in the sea of white togas. She keeps her head lowered, staring through the amber haze at the floor. She sees the feet of the guests, leather sandals, senator shoes with their ivory crescents, the bare feet of the slaves standing in the shadows. She is led to the center of the room, near the edge of the pool, and there, standing across from the water, is Gaius. He looks different than she remembers. He is wearing his best toga, a bright chalk-whitened wool that dazzles in the sun. He is clean-shaven, his hair cropped short in the Roman style. He stands with his hands clasped, his face serious. He does not smile. This is not a party. This is a legal procedure. He looks at the orange-veiled figure approaching him. Does he wonder who is underneath? Or is he thinking of the dowry, the land deeds, the alliance between their families? Livia stops. They are close enough to touch, but they do not. Between them lies an invisible barrier, the barrier of the gods. Before a single word can be spoken, before a contract can be signed, the heavens must be consulted. A man steps out from the crowd. He is older, with a face carved by years of worry and authority. He wears a toga draped over his head, marking him as a man engaged in a religious act. He is the auspex, the augur. The Romans do nothing without the gods. They do not march to war, they do not lay a cornerstone, and they do not marry without asking, "Is this permitted?" The auspex moves to the center of the room, standing directly under the open roof. He lifts his face to the square of blue sky. The room goes completely still. This is a silence deeper than before. It is a terrified silence. If the signs are bad, if a black crow flies the wrong way, if thunder rumbles on the left, if the sacred chickens refuse to eat, the wedding stops. The contract is void. The shame would be unbearable. Livia holds her breath. Under the veil, her sweat feels cold. She listens. She hears the distant bark of a dog in the street. She hears the rustle of a restless guest shifting their weight. She hears the wind passing over the roof tiles. The auspex stands like a statue, his eyes scanning the heavens. He is looking for the numen, the divine nod. He is watching the flight of the birds. He is interpreting the invisible language of the sky. The seconds stretch into minutes. The tension in the room is physical, a tight string pulled to the breaking point. Livia closes her eyes under the amber veil. She prays to the lattice she left behind. Let it be yes. Let it be over. Finally, the auspex lowers his head. He turns to the father of the bride and the father of the groom. His voice is low, gravelly, and echoes off the stone walls. The birds fly on the right. The heavens are clear. The gods approve. A collective exhale rushes through the room. It sounds like a sudden breeze. Shoulders drop. The tension breaks. The barrier is removed. The gods have given their commission for the property to be transferred. Now, the lawyers can step forward. Servants move in, carrying a heavy wooden table. They place it between Livia and Gaius. On the table, they place a set of wooden tablets coated in smooth black wax. Next to the tablets, a sharp metal stylus glints in the sunlight. The mystic moment is over. The bureaucratic moment has arrived.
The table sits in the center of the atrium. It is made of citrus wood, polished to a deep honey-colored shine, resting on legs carved to resemble the paws of lions. But today, no one admires the furniture. All attention is fixed on the objects resting upon it. The tabulae nuptialis, the marriage tablets. These are not fragile scrolls of papyrus that might tear or fade. These are heavy, rectangular slabs of beechwood. The center of each tablet has been hollowed out and filled with beeswax, which has been smoothed to a flat black surface. They are hinged together with leather thongs, opening like a book. This is the physical embodiment of Roman law. In a city that rules the world, the law is the only true king. It is the skeleton that holds the empire together. and it is the skeleton that holds this marriage together. Livia stands perfectly still under her orange veil. She can see the tablets through the amber haze of the fabric. She knows what is written there, though she has never read them. The terms were negotiated weeks ago in a private room by her father and the father of the groom. They argued over cups of wine, trading numbers, trading acres, trading futures. A silence descends again, different from the religious silence of the augur. This is a bureaucratic silence. It is the silence of the counting house. A scribe steps forward. He is a slave, dressed in a simple gray tunic, holding the tablets open. He begins to read the terms aloud for the witnesses to hear. His voice is monotone, dry as dust. To Gaius Julius, son of Lucius, of the tribe of Fabian, he begins. The words float through the warm air of the atrium. He lists the names, he lists the dates, and then he lists the dos, the dowry. The dowry is the price of the bride. It is the wealth that travels with Livia from her father's house to her husband's house, intended to offset the cost of her maintenance. The scribe reads the list slowly, item by item. It is a hypnotic recitation of goods. Item: 20,000 sesterces in silver coin, minted in Rome. Item: 500 acres of olive groves in the Sabina region, including the press and the storage jars. Item: 12 bolts of Tyrian purple cloth. Item: 1 silver mirror embossed with the image of Venus. Item: 3 skilled weavers, slaves of the household. Livia listens to the list. These are the things that define her value. She is a package. She is a transaction. The silver coins are cold and hard. The olive trees are old and gnarled. The purple cloth is soft and expensive. And she, standing there in her wool tunic and flame-colored veil, is just another item on the list. There is no mention of her laugh. There is no mention of her skill at the lyre. There is no mention of her kindness. The law does not care for these things. The law cares for what can be weighed, measured, and counted. As the list goes on, Livia feels a strange sense of detachment. It is as if they're talking about someone else. She is floating above the scene, watching the figures move in the sunlight. The heat of the veil makes her feel sleepy, safe in her isolation. The drone of the scribe's voice is like the buzzing of a bee in a summer garden, constant, rhythmic, lulling. Item: gold jewelry weighing 2 pounds. Item: household linens sufficient for 3 beds. Finally, the reading ends. The scribe lowers the tablets. The terms are public. The deal is clear. Now comes the signing. Gaius steps forward. He picks up the stylus. It is a sharp, pointed instrument made of iron. He leans over the table. Scritch! The sound of the metal cutting into the wax is loud in the quiet room. It is a harsh, scratching sound. Scritch, scratch, scritch. He is carving his name. He is carving his acceptance of the property. He is carving his authority. In the soft black wax, the letters form, white and raw against the dark background. Gaius Julius. He steps back. Now the witnesses must come forward. By law, there must be 10 witnesses, 10 adult male citizens of Rome. They are the guarantors of reality. If they don't see it, it did not happen. One by one, they approach the table. They are men of gravity, wearing their white togas with purple borders. They are senators, knights, merchants. They take the stylus. Scritch, scratch.
The first witness signs. Then he pulls the heavy gold ring from his finger. This is his signet ring, carved with a unique seal, perhaps a lion, perhaps a god, perhaps the face of an ancestor. He breathes on the ring to warm it, then presses it hard into the soft wax at the bottom of the tablet. Squish! The wax yields. The seal is set. The second witness steps up. Scritch, scratch, the signing, the ring, the press. The third witness, the fourth. It is a slow, repetitive process. There is no rushing the law. Livia stands and watches. She counts the rings. 1, 2, 3, 4. She watches the hands of the men, some old and spotted with age, some young and smooth, some scarred from military service. These hands are sealing her fate. The sound of the stylus becomes a rhythm. It echoes off the marble pillars. It is the sound of the door to her old life being nailed shut, one nail at a time. Scritch, scratch, press. Finally, the 10th witness finishes. He lifts his ring, checking the impression in the wax. It is perfect. He nods. The scribe closes the wooden tablets. Clack. He ties the leather thongs tight. He pours hot wax over the knot and stamps it with a final seal. The document is finished. It will be stored in the tabularium, the great archive of Rome. It will outlast the flowers. It will outlast the guests. It will probably outlast Livia herself. The legal contract is signed. Livia is now property in transition, but the ritual demands a physical connection. The law is satisfied, but the spirits are waiting. A woman steps out from the crowd. She moves with a calm, graceful authority. She is the pronuba. The pronuba is the matron of honor, but she is more than that. She is a role model. She must be a univira, a woman who has had only one husband. She represents the ideal of Roman fidelity. She is the living example of what Livia must become. She approaches Livia. Her face is kind but stern. She reaches under the orange veil and takes Livia's right hand. Livia's hand is cold. Her fingers are stiff. The pronuba's hand is warm and dry. She holds Livia firmly, not gently. This is a command, not a suggestion. She turns to Gaius and takes his right hand. And there, in the center of the atrium, under the open roof and the watching sky, she brings the two hands together. Dextrarum junctio, the joining of right hands. It is the most iconic image of the Roman world. You can see it carved on their sarcophagi, stamped on their coins. It is the moment of contact. Livia feels the skin of this stranger. His palm is rough, his grip is strong. He does not squeeze her hand in reassurance. He holds it with possession. It is a handshake, not a caress. It is the handshake of a treaty being ratified. For the first time, Livia feels the physical reality of the man. He is solid, he is warm, he is breathing. The abstract fear becomes a concrete reality. This hand will lead her out of this house. This hand will hold the keys to the storerooms. This hand will hold authority over her children. The crowd watches the hands clasped together. A murmur goes through the room, a traditional shout of well-wishing. Feliciter, they cry. Feliciter. May it be lucky, may it be fruitful. But there is no kiss, there is no embrace. The hands hold for a moment longer, skin against skin, pulse against pulse, and then they drop. The connection is made, the current is flowing, but the ritual is hungry. It requires more than wax and hands. It requires food. It requires a sacrifice to bind the souls as well as the fortunes. Servants appear from the shadows, carrying a small altar and a plate covered in a white cloth. The smell of burning grain fills the air.
The joining of hands was the legal seal. Now comes the spiritual binding. The air in the atrium changes. The dried, dusty smell of the parchment and wax tablets fades, replaced by something thicker, richer, and more primal. It is the smell of burning incense, the sweet tang of bay leaves crackling in a fire, and the metallic scent of blood. Servants move silently into the center of the room. They carry a small portable altar, a focus. On it, a fire is burning. The flames are small, licking at the air, transparent in the bright shaft of sunlight falling from the roof. Marriage, to the Romans, is not just a contract between two people. It is a contract between two families and the gods. Specifically, it is a contract with Jupiter, the king of the gods, and Ceres, the goddess of the harvest. If these gods are not fed, the marriage will starve. A boy steps forward to assist. He is a Camillus, a specialized altar server. He must be young, freeborn, and both his parents must still be living. He represents the ideal of a complete, unbroken family line. In his hands, he carries a basket covered with a white cloth. Livia watches the smoke rise. It curls upward in a straight line, drawn by the draft toward the open roof, carrying the prayers of the household up into the blue square of the sky. The smoke makes her eyes water slightly under the orange veil. It blurs the world even more. The guests, the pillars, the groom, they all become shadows moving in a haze. The priest reaches into the basket and pulls out the most important object of the entire day. It is not gold, it is not a jewel, it is a cake. This is the farium. It is a simple, round loaf of bread made from spelt flour, far. Spelt is an ancient grain, harder and rougher than modern wheat. It was the grain of the early Romans, the shepherds and farmers who built the city out of mud and determination. This bread is not made for pleasure. It is dry, salty, and unleavened. It is the taste of history. This specific type of marriage, the most sacred and strict form of Roman marriage, is named after this cake. It is called confareatio, sharing the spelt. The priest breaks the cake in half. Crack! The sound is dry and crisp. He hands one piece to Gaius. He hands the other piece to Livia. They must eat it together. Livia lifts the bread to her lips. It is hard. She bites into it. The texture is coarse, grinding against her teeth. It tastes of earth, of salt, and of the smoke from the fire. It is difficult to swallow. Her mouth is dry from the nerves and the long morning of silence. She chews slowly. Beside her, Gaius does the same. In the silence of the atrium, the sound of them eating is audible. It is a humble sound. By eating this bread, they are becoming one body. They are binding themselves to the service of Jupiter. From this moment on, Livia is no longer just a woman. She is a priestess of the household. She shares in her husband's fire and his water. It is a sacrament of subsistence. It says, "We will survive together." Once the bread is eaten, the ritual demands rest. But even the rest is symbolic. 2 wooden stools are brought forward. They are placed side by side, touching. But before the couple can sit, the servants bring out a pellis, a sheepskin. This is the skin of the sheep that was sacrificed earlier in the morning to read the omens. The wool is thick and matted. It has been stripped from the animal, a raw reminder of the life that was given to bless this union. The skin is thrown over the 2 stools, covering them both. It creates a single bridge of wool between the 2 seats. "Sit," the Pronuba whispers.
Livia and Gaius sit down. They sit on the same skin. They're physically connected by the sacrifice. Under the veil, Livia feels the warmth of the wool through her tunic. She feels the warmth of Gaius's leg pressing against hers. It is the first time their bodies have touched beyond their hands. She sits straight, her hands folded in her lap, her feet in their saffron shoes resting on the mosaic floor. She is tired. The weight of the hairstyle, the heat of the veil, the endless staring eyes of the guests, it is exhausting. But she cannot slump. She must be the statue. She must be the ideal. They sit there for what feels like an hour. The guests file past them, offering congratulations. Feliciter, benecit, may the gods keep you. Livia nods. She does not speak. Her voice is gone, swallowed by the silence of the ritual. She is an object of worship now, and idols do not speak. The ceremony in the house is effectively over. The legal and religious work is done. Now,
The waiting begins. The sun moves across the sky, the shaft of light in the atrium shifts, moving from the impluvium pool to the eastern pillars, and then slowly climbs the wall. The bright, hard light of noon begins to soften into the golden haze of the afternoon. The guests begin to relax. The tension of the ritual evaporates. Wine is brought out, great amphorae of Falernium wine, mixed with water and honey. Platters of figs, olives, roasted pork, and dormice cooked in honey are passed around. The volume of the room rises. There is laughter, there is gossip. But Livia remains apart. She is still under the veil. She is still sitting on the sheepskin or standing quietly near the altar. She is in the party, but not of it. She is in a liminal space, a threshold state. She is no longer a daughter of this house, but she has not yet entered the house of her husband. She is a ghost in the machine of the celebration. She watches the shadows lengthen. She watches the oil lamps being prepared for the evening. She knows what is coming next. The Roman marriage does not end with the vows. It ends with a journey. And that journey is not a peaceful walk. It is a reenactment of a crime. As the light begins to fail and the blue square of sky turns a deep indigo purple, the mood in the room shifts again. The wine has made the young men rowdy. The older men are sentimental. The women are whispering. Livia feels a hand on her shoulder. It is her mother. The sun is down, her mother says softly. The star of Venus is rising. This is the signal. The procession is about to begin. But Livia cannot simply walk out the door. That would be an insult to her father's house. It would suggest she is happy to leave. No. Tradition demands resistance. Tradition demands that she cling to the past until it is torn from her grasp. The pronoba leans in close. Her voice is low, hypnotic, blending with the darkening room. Prepare yourself, child. They are coming for you. Livia looks across the room. She sees Gaius. He is surrounded by his friends, young men with flushed faces and bright eyes. They are laughing, but they are also looking at her. They are forming a group. They are forming a raiding party. They begin to move toward her. They do not walk with the slow, respectful steps of the morning. They walk with purpose. They walk with speed. Livia's heart begins to hammer against her ribs. She knows it is a play. She knows it is just a ritual. But the instinct to run is ancient and deep. She turns to her mother. She grabs her mother's arms. She buries her face in her mother's stola, smelling the familiar scent of lavender and old wool. "I will not go," she whispers, reciting the script. "I will not go." But the footsteps are getting closer. The shadows are getting longer. The safety of the childhood home is dissolving. The night has arrived, and with it, the abduction.
The atrium is now cast in shadow. The only light comes from the flickering oil lamps mounted on the walls and the dying embers of the sacrificial fire. In this half-light, the movement of the crowd takes on a dreamlike quality. Livia stands, clinging to her mother. Her fingers grip the fabric of her mother's tunic so tightly that her knuckles turn white. She presses her forehead against her mother's shoulder, squeezing her eyes shut under the orange veil. She breathes in the scent of her mother, a smell of dried rose petals and familiar comfort. It is the scent of the past. It is the scent of safety. Across the room, the group of young men moves closer. They are the friends of the groom, acting as his soldiers. They are laughing, but there is an edge to their laughter. They are reenacting a legend that lies at the very foundation of Rome, the rape of the Sabine women. They are playing the part of the first Romans who, lacking wives, stole them from their neighbors by force. They reach the spot where Livia stands. "Talasio!" one of them shouts. It is the first time the word is spoken tonight. "Talasio!" Suddenly, hands are upon her. They are not gentle hands. They are strong, insistent hands. They grab her arms. They grab her waist. Livia feels the physical shock of the contact. She pulls back, digging her heels into the mosaic floor. "Mother!" she cries out. This is part of the script, but the fear in her voice is real. "Do not let me go!" Her mother holds on for a moment, playing her part in the drama of resistance. She pulls Livia close, shielding her. But then, as tradition demands, her grip loosens. She steps back. She surrenders. It is a terrifying moment of abandonment. The one person who has protected Livia since birth steps away, leaving her exposed to the group of men. Gaius steps forward. He takes Livia's arm from his friends. He pulls her toward him. The force is not enough to hurt, but it is enough to unbalance her. She stumbles forward, away from the hearth, away from the lararium, away from everything she knows. She is being stolen. This ritual tells a hard truth about the Roman world. A woman does not leave her father's house. She is taken from it. She is not an agent of her own destiny. She is an object to be acquired. Livia is swept up into the center of the group. The men surround her, a wall of white togas blocking her view of her mother. They begin to move toward the great wooden doors of the entrance. She looks back over her shoulder. Through the haze of the orange veil, she sees her mother standing alone by the pool, her figure receding into the shadows. Her father stands beside her, his face impassive. They do not wave, they do not follow. The contract is signed, the delivery is underway. The heavy bronze doors of the villa groan as they are pushed open. For the first time all day, Livia steps out of the controlled environment of the house. The cool night air hits her face. It smells of the city, a complex, pungent mix of wood smoke, roasting meat, animal dung, and the damp breath of the Tiber River. The street outside is waiting. The transition is jarring. Inside it was quiet, ordered, ritualistic. Outside it is chaotic. Rome at night is a dangerous place, usually dark and prowled by thieves. But tonight, for this street, there is light. A roar goes up from the crowd gathered outside. These are not invited guests. These are the neighbors, the clients, the beggars, the curious onlookers. A Roman wedding is a public spectacle. Everyone wants to see the procession. Everyone wants to judge the wealth of the families. "Felicitar! Felicitar!" The shouts ring out, bouncing off the high stone walls of the apartment blocks, the insulae that line the street. Livia is guided to the center of the road. She is flanked by 3 boys. These boys are patrimi at matrimi, children whose parents are both still living. They are lucky charms. Their presence creates a shield of good fortune around the bride. One boy walks on her left, one walks on her right. They hold her hands, guiding her steps on the uneven cobblestones. The third boy walks ahead of her. He carries a torch. But this is not a normal torch. It is made of white thorn wood, spina alba. It burns with a fierce, crackling flame. It is believed that white thorn has the power to ward off evil spirits and witches who might be lurking in the dark, jealous of the bride's happiness. The torchbearer waves the flame high. Sparks fly up into the night sky, swirling like fireflies before vanishing in the dark. The light dances on the wet stones of the street, creating shifting, monstrous shadows.
Behind Livia, a servant carries 2 objects that define her future existence, a distaff and a spindle. These are the tools of wool working. The distaff holds the raw wool, the spindle twists it into thread. They are the symbols of domestic labor. Even in the middle of her wedding procession, Livia is being reminded of her job. She is not going to her new home to be a queen. She is going there to work. She is going to spin the wool for her husband's togas. She is going to clothe the household. The romance of the night is underpinned by the reality of the loom. The procession begins to move. It is a slow, noisy river of people flowing through the arteries of Rome. Musicians take the lead. There are flute players, tibicines. They play a high, reedy melody that pierces the noise of the crowd. It is a repetitive, trance-like tune designed to drown out any ill omens or bad sounds from the city. There are lyre players strumming rhythmic chords. Livia walks in time with the music. Step, step, step. Her saffron shoes are soft on the hard stones. She has to be careful not to trip. To trip now would be a disastrous omen. And then the chanting begins. It starts low, a rumble in the throats of the men, and then swells into a roar. Talasio, Talasio, Talasio. The word echoes off the brick walls. Talasio. What does it mean? No one truly knows. Even the Romans of Livia's time have forgotten the origin. Some say it was the name of a senator in the days of Romulus who claimed the most beautiful Sabine woman. Others say it is an ancient word for spinning wool. But the meaning doesn't matter. It is the rhythm that matters. Talasio, Talasio. It is a hypnotic chant. It acts as a heartbeat for the procession. It binds the crowd together into a single organism. Livia feels the sound vibrating in her chest. It drowns out her thoughts. It drowns out her fear. She stops thinking about the mother she left behind. She stops worrying about the husband waiting ahead. She simply walks. She is carried along by the sound, by the light of the torches, by the hands of the boys holding her. She is floating in a river of sound and fire. People lean out of windows 3 stories up to watch them pass. Their faces are lit by the torchlight, floating masks of curiosity. They throw nuts and walnuts down onto the street. Click-clack, click-clack. The nuts hit the stones. Walnuts are a symbol of fertility, but also a symbol of childhood games. By throwing them away, the groom is casting aside his boyish past. Street urchins scramble on the ground, fighting for the nuts, laughing and shouting. The chaos is part of the ritual. It is a celebration of life, messy and loud, surrounding the silent, veiled figure in the center. Livia walks on. The orange veil protects her from the gaze of the crowd. She feels like she is moving through a tunnel. The world outside is a blur of noise and light, but inside the veil, it is just her and her breath. She is moving from one island of safety to another, crossing the dangerous ocean of the night, and the current is strong. There is no turning back.
By doing this, she is symbolically dressing the house. She is bringing her feminine skill, her ability to create warmth and comfort to the cold stone and wood. She is promising that inside these walls there will be clothes, there will be blankets, there will be industry. The rough oak of the door is now adorned with tufts of soft white fleece. It looks festive. It looks welcomed. Livia steps back. She looks at her work. The door is anointed. The door is bound. The barrier has been prepared. Now the door opens. It swings inward with a heavy groan of hinges. A rectangle of warm golden light spills out onto the dark street. Standing in the light is Gaius. He has arrived before her, taking a different route or moving quickly while she performed the rituals. He stands on the threshold, outlined by the glow of the atrium behind him. He looks tall and formidable. He is the master of this space. He does not invite her in yet. He asks a question. It is the final test of identity. "Who are you?" he asks. His voice is loud enough for the crowd to hear. It is a formal question. He is not asking for her personal name. He is asking for her legal status. Livia lifts her head under the orange veil. She speaks the words that every Roman bride has spoken for centuries. It is a formula of total submission and total equality. Ubi tu Gaius, ego Gaia. Where you are Gaius, I am Gaia. It is a simple phrase, but it carries the weight of a mountain. She is saying, I am your mirror. I am your shadow. I am the female version of you. She is stripping away her old name. She is no longer Livia of the house of her father. She is now the feminine counterpart to her husband. Whatever he is, she is. Wherever he goes, she goes. If he is the master, she is the mistress. Gaius nods. The answer is correct. The formula is complete. But still, she does not walk in. There is one final danger, the threshold itself. The stone step at the bottom of the doorway is a perilous line. To trip over it would be a disaster. To stumble while entering her new home would suggest that the gods of the house have rejected her. It would mean a marriage full of bad luck, clumsiness, and failure. Livia looks at the threshold. It is high. Her veil makes it hard to see her feet. Her heavy tunic restricts her legs. The risk is too great. Gaius signals to his friends, the same young men who stole her from her mother's arms. "Lift her," he commands. The men step forward. They are laughing again, but gently now. This is the final act of the procession. They stoop down. They grab Livia by the waist and the legs. She is lifted into the air. She floats above the dangerous stone. She floats above the grease and the wool. For a moment she is suspended in the space between the street and the house, between the night and the light. She is weightless. She is neither here nor there. And then they carry her across. She passes through the open door. The cool air of the street is instantly replaced by the warm, still air of the atrium. The noise of the crowd seems to cut off as she crosses the line. They set her down gently on the mosaic floor of her new home. She has arrived. The door swings shut behind her. Boom! The sound of the heavy wood closing is final. The street, the crowd, the torches, the world of her childhood, it is all on the other side. She is inside now. She is in the manus of her husband. The silence of the house wraps around her like a blanket.
The heavy oak door has closed. The iron latch has clicked into place. Thud. The sound acts as a severance. Outside, the chanting of Talasio still lingers, but it is muffled now, distant, like the sound of a storm passing over a mountain range. The chaos of the street, the flickering torches, the scrambling children, it all feels 1,000 miles away. Inside, the silence is profound. Livia stands on the mosaic floor of the atrium. She takes a breath. The air here is different. It is still. It has been held within these walls for generations. It smells of beeswax polish, of old linen, and the faint, sweet smoke of the hearth fire that burns in the center of the room. She is standing in the manus of her husband. She is standing in the heart of his power. The room is lit by oil lamps placed in niches along the walls. The small flames cast long, stretching shadows that dance against the frescoes. The faces of Gaius's ancestors, masks made of wax, housed in wooden cabinets called armaria, seem to watch her from the gloom. These are strangers to her. She does not know their names. She does not know their stories. But from this moment on, they are her ancestors too. She must honor them. She must feed them. She must keep their memory alive. Livia feels the weight of the orange veil pressing down on her head. Her neck is stiff from holding the elaborate hairstyle. Her feet, in the saffron slippers, ache from the long walk on the cobblestones. She feels small in the vast, shadowed space of the atrium. Gaius steps forward. He has shed the role of the abductor. He is no longer the man who stole her from her mother. Now he is the pater familialis, the head of the household. He is the priest of this home. He holds two objects in his hands. In his left hand, he holds a vessel of water. It is a simple clay bowl filled from the cistern that collects the rain. In his right hand, he holds a burning torch, or perhaps a brazier with a glowing coal. Fire and water, aqua et ignis. These are the two elements that sustain life. Without water, the body withers. Without fire, the food cannot be cooked, the darkness cannot be pushed back, and the gods cannot be warmed. In Roman law, to be exiled is to be interdicted from fire and water. It means you are cut off from the community of the living. Conversely, to be offered fire and water is the ultimate sign of acceptance.
Gaius holds them out to her. The water ripples in the bowl, catching the light. The fire crackles softly, radiating heat that she can feel through her wool tunic. "Receive the fire," he says. His voice is low, echoing slightly in the empty room. "Receive the water." Livia reaches out. Her hands, emerging from the folds of her white robe, look pale in the lamplight. She touches the cool rim of the water bowl. She passes her hand over the warmth of the fire. It is a baptism of belonging. By accepting these elements, she is accepting her share of the life of this house. She is acknowledging that she will drink from this cistern and tend this hearth. She is no longer a guest, she is an inhabitant. The elements are placed on the small altar near the impluvium. The fire joins the household flame. The water joins the household supply. Livia has been absorbed. But there is more to this transfer than just symbols. There is administration. Gaius reaches to his belt. He unhooks a heavy ring of iron. Clink, jingle, keys. They are large, clumsy things, forged by a blacksmith. They are not polished or ornamental. They are functional. They are the keys to the storerooms. They are the keys to the pantry where the grain is kept, to the cellar where the wine is stored, to the chests where the linens are folded. He places the ring of keys into Livia's hand. They are heavy, cold iron against warm skin. This gesture transforms her status. A few hours ago, she was a child playing with dolls. Now she is the mater familialis. She is the manager of the estate. It will be her job to ensure the slaves are fed, that the wool is spun, that the supplies do not run out in winter. The weight of the keys pulls at her hand. It is the weight of responsibility. Rome is not built on romance. It is built on logistics. And Livia has just been handed the logistics of this family's survival. She closes her fingers around the iron. She holds them tight. It is a grounding sensation. The keys are real. They are solid. They anchor her to this new reality. In the atrium, opposite the main door, stands a bed. It is not a bed for sleeping. It is the lectus genialis, the symbolic marriage bed. It is high, decorated with ivory inlays and covered in rich purple fabrics and embroidered cushions. It is a monument to the marriage. Tradition says that Livia must sit here. She walks towards it. Her saffron shoes make no sound on the mosaic. She climbs onto the high mattress. She sits in the center, her back straight, her hands resting in her lap, still clutching the keys. From this vantage point, she can see the whole room. She sees the open roof, where the square of the night sky is now pitch black, studded with a few faint stars. She sees the water in the pool reflecting the lamplight. She sees the shadows of the pillars. She looks like a queen on a throne, but she feels like a statue placed in a niche. The remaining guests, the close family members who entered with them, stand back. They speak in hushed tones. The party is effectively over. The noise and the wine belong to the street. Here, there was only the solemnity of the contract being fulfilled. Livia feels the scent of the house. It is slowly becoming familiar. The cedar wood, the lamp oil. It is starting to smell like her life.
Her eyes feel heavy. The events of the day, the early rising, the hairdressing, the procession, the chanting, are catching up with her. The heat under the veil is soporific. She feels a wave of exhaustion wash over her, a desire to simply close her eyes and let the darkness take her. But the night is not quite done. There is one final knot to be untied. There is one final barrier to be removed. Gaius approaches the lectus genialis. He looks up at her. For the first time, he looks tired too. The weight of the pater familias is heavy on him as well. He has acquired a wife, a dowry, and a future. He has performed his duty to his ancestors. He reaches out a hand to help her down. "Come," he says softly. Livia slides off the high bed. Her feet touch the floor. The keys jingle at her waist. He leads her away from the atrium,
away from the watching masks of the ancestors, away from the dying fire of the hearth. He leads her toward the cubiculum, the private bedroom. The atrium is left behind. The shadows swallow the empty bed. The water in the pool settles into glass-like stillness. The house waits. The cubiculum is small. Unlike the grand, open atrium with its public shadows and watching ancestors, this room is intimate. It is enclosed. The walls are thick, shutting out the last murmurs of the city. There is no window to the street, only a small opening high up that lets in a sliver of the night air. A single lamp burns on a low table. The flame is small, a tiny tongue of fire that barely pushes back the dark. It illuminates the frescoes on the walls, scenes of quiet gardens, trailing ivy, and sleeping doves. The colors are muted, ochre, terracotta, and sage green. Livia stands in the center of the room. The space feels tight after the vastness of the night sky. Gaius closes the door. Click. The sound is final. They are alone. For the first time in their lives, for the first time since the contracts were signed and the dowries negotiated, there are no witnesses, there is no priest, there is no mother. There is only the man, the woman, and the silence. Livia stands still. She is still wearing the full regalia of the bride. The orange veil, the flammeum, the fire that has hidden her all day, the shield that turned the world amber. Slowly, gently, he lifts it. The fabric slides over her high hairstyle. It slides past her ears. It falls away from her face. For the first time since sunrise, Livia sees the world in its true colors. The amber haze is gone. The yellow flame is orange. The shadows are black, not brown. The face of her husband is clear. He looks at her. He sees the woman he has married. He sees the dark eyes, the pale skin, the intricate architectural hair that makes her look older, taller, more severe. Does he see Livia, or does he see the mater familias? In Rome, it is hard to tell the difference. Gaius places the veil on a chair. It lies there in a heap of bright orange wool, like a fire that has burned out. Livia feels exposed. Without the veil, the room feels too bright, even with only one lamp. She feels the cool air on her neck. She lowers her eyes. A Roman bride is expected to be modest. She is expected to look down. Pudicitas, modesty, is her greatest virtue. Gaius speaks. His voice is quiet, stripped of the performative volume he used in the atrium. "You are tired," he says. It is not a question. It is a statement of fact. It is a moment of unexpected kindness. Livia nods. "Yes," she whispers. Her voice sounds strange to her own ears, raspy, unused. "The day is long," he says. "The rituals are heavy." He moves to the small table and pours a cup of water from a pitcher. He hands it to her. Livia takes the cup. Her hands are shaking slightly. She drinks. The water is cool and clean. It washes away the taste of the dry spelt bread. It washes away the dust of the street. She hands the cup back. Their fingers brush. "Rest," he says. He turns away to unpin his toga, the heavy woolen garment that signifies his citizenship. Livia sits on the edge of the bed. It is lower than the ceremonial bed in the atrium. It is softer. She begins to unpin the ribbons in her hair. Her fingers fumble with the wool. The structure collapses. The coils loosen. Her hair falls down around her shoulders, dark and heavy. She sighs. The relief is physical. The headache she has carried all day begins to fade. She lies down. The wool of the mattress rises up to meet her. It smells of dried herbs. The lamp is still burning. Gaius blows it out.
The room plunges into darkness. But this darkness is not scary. It is not the darkness of the tomb or the darkness of the void. It is the darkness of rest. Livia lies in the dark, listening to the silence. The keys to the storehouse are on the table. The marriage contract is in the archive. The gods have been fed. The door has been greased. The wool has been spun. Everything is done. The anxiety that has wound her tight for weeks begins to unspool, like the thread from a spindle. The fear of the unknown is replaced by the reality of the known. She is here. She is alive. She is Gaia. She listens to the breathing of her husband in the dark. It is a steady, rhythmic sound. It is the sound of her new life. Outside, the city of Rome continues to turn. The guards walk the walls. The Tiber flows to the sea. The stars wheel overhead, indifferent to the lives of mortals. But in this small room, the world has stopped. Livia closes her eyes. The images of the day flash behind her eyelids. The spear, the flame, the torch, the crowd. But they are fading now, becoming dream stuff. She sinks into the mattress. She sinks into the history. She sinks into the sleep of the exhausted. The night passes. The darkness of the Cubiculum thins, dissolving slowly into the gray, watery light of dawn. Livia wakes. For a moment, in that fragile, confused space between sleep and wakefulness, she does not know where she is. The ceiling above her is different. The cracks in the plaster do not form the familiar shapes of her childhood. The smell is different. The air is cooler, damp with the morning dew and scented with a cedar oil she does not recognize. She turns her head. Beside her, a man is sleeping. Gaius. Memory floods back. The saffron veil, the iron spear, the heavy keys, the walk through the streets. She is no longer Livia, daughter of the senator. She is Gaia, mistress of this house. She lies still for a long time, listening. The house is silent. The city outside has not yet begun its roar. There is only the distant crow of a rooster from a rooftop co-op in the Subura district. She slips out of bed. Her movement is quiet, practiced. She wraps a simple wool tunic around herself, not the heavy, stiff ceremonial robe of yesterday, but a soft, everyday garment. She is no longer a monument to tradition. She is a woman about to start her work. She sees the ring of iron keys lying on the table where she left them. They look dull and heavy in the gray light. She picks them up. Clink. The sound is soft, but it feels loud in the quiet room. She ties them to her belt. The weight against her hip is reassuring. It grounds her. She opens the door and steps out into the atrium. Yesterday, the atrium was a theater. It was crowded with guests, filled with smoke, noise, and the pressure of hundreds of eyes. This morning, it is empty. It is vast, shadowy, and cold. The impluvium pool is a sheet of black glass, reflecting the empty square of the sky. The garlands of flowers that decorated the pillars yesterday are starting to wilt, their petals curling at the edges. The floor is scattered with a few stray nutshells left behind by the guests. Livia walks across the mosaic floor. Her bare feet make no sound. She walks toward the focus, the central hearth. This is her first duty. This is the definition of a Roman wife. She is the keeper of the flame. The fire from the wedding sacrifice has burned down. There is only a pile of gray ash, with perhaps a few red embers deep within the mound. Livia kneels. The stone is hard against her knees. She takes a small tool, a bronze poker, and gently stirs the ash. She finds the heat. She takes a handful of dry kindling,
twigs of pine and dried herbs and places them carefully over the embers. She leans in and blows. Whoosh! A thin stream of smoke rises, twisting in the still air. Then a small tongue of orange flame licks up. It catches the wood. It grows. Livia watches the fire. In Rome, the fire is Vesta. Vesta is the goddess of the hearth, the only goddess who is not depicted as a human statue, but as living flame. By lighting this fire, Livia is awakening the house. She is telling the spirits, the Lares and Penates, that the night is over. She is telling them that a new guardian has taken her post.
The warmth hits her face. It is the first welcome she has truly felt. The house is no longer a stranger's house. It is hers, because she has fed its heart. Leaving the fire crackling softly, Livia begins to walk. She explores her domain. She walks past the tablinum, the office where Gaius will receive his clients later in the morning. It is filled with scrolls and wax tablets, the smell of ink and parchment. She does not linger there. That is his world. She walks through a narrow corridor and emerges into the peristylium, the garden courtyard at the back of the house. If the atrium is the head of the house, the peristyle is its soul. It is an open-air garden surrounded by a colonnade of marble pillars. Here the morning light is brighter. The garden is green and lush. There are box hedges trimmed into geometric shapes. There are rosemary bushes, silver green in the dew. There are small fruit trees, fig and lemon. Livia walks along the colonnade. The air here smells of wet earth and green leaves. It is a sharp, clean smell. She stops in front of a statue. It is a marble bust of an old woman, her face lined with age, her hair dressed in the style of 50 years ago. A grandmother? An ancestor? Livia looks at the stone eyes. "I am here now," she whispers. The silence of the garden is different from the silence of the atrium. It is a living silence. She can hear the drip of water from a small fountain. She can hear the rustle of a bird waking up in the ivy. She realizes that this is where she will spend her life. She will sit on these benches. She will watch the seasons change in this square of sky. She will watch her children run on this grass. The wedding was a single explosion of noise. This silence is the long, steady river she must now navigate. She turns back to the house. The slaves are beginning to stir. She sees a young girl, a servant, entering the atrium with a broom. The girl stops when she sees Livia. She lowers her eyes. She waits. Livia feels a strange sensation. Fear? No. Authority. Yesterday she was a girl who was dressed by others. Today she is the one who commands. Livia touches the keys at her belt. She walks toward the storeroom, the cella penaria. She selects the largest key. It is rough iron. She fits it into the lock. It turns with a heavy, grinding sound. Clunk. She pushes the door open. The smell rushes out to meet her. It is the smell of abundance, the smell of survival. It smells of dry grain, of salty cured meat, of amphora filled with olive oil, of dried figs and apples. This is the battery of the house. Livia steps inside. It is dark and cool. She runs her hand over the sacks of flour. She checks the level of the oil in the jars. She counts the hanging sausages. She is doing the mental arithmetic of the materfamilias. How much flour for the bread today? How much wine for the evening meal? Are there enough candles? She is not just a wife, she is a logistics manager. The Roman Empire runs on grain and law, and so does this household. She points to a sack of spelt flour. She signals to the servant girl waiting by the door. "Take this," Livia says. "Grind it for the morning bread." Her voice is steady. It is not the whisper of the shy bride. It is the voice of the mistress.
The servant nods and hurries to obey. Livia walks back to the atrium. The fire is burning brightly now, casting a warm glow on the walls. The sun has crested the roof, and a square of golden light falls onto the floor, illuminating the water in the impluvium. In the corner of the room stands a large wooden frame. It is a loom. It is upright, tall, and strung with vertical threads of white wool. A shuttle sits on the bench beside it. A basket of unspun wool rests on the floor. This is her station. Livia walks over to the loom. She touches the threads. They are tight, waiting for the weaver. She sits down on the bench. She picks up the shuttle. She passes it through the threads. Slide. She pulls the beater down. Thud. Slide. Thud. Slide. Thud. The rhythmic sound fills the quiet house. It is a heartbeat. It is a hypnotic, repetitive noise that says, life continues. The wedding is over. The drama is finished. The gods have been appeased. Now there is only the wool, the fire, and the keys. Livia settles into the rhythm. She watches the dust motes dancing in the shaft of sunlight. She feels the peace of the routine settling over her shoulders like a warm blanket. She is weaving the fabric of her new life, one thread at a time. And in the rhythm of the loom, she finds a deep, quiet rest.
The wedding day was a single spike of intensity, a moment of fire, noise, and transition. But a life is not made of moments, it is made of days. As the weeks bleed into months, the sharp edges of Livia's new reality begin to soften. The strangeness of the house fades. The smell of the cedar wood and the lamp oil no longer registers as foreign. It simply smells like home. In the ancient world, time is not measured by clocks or digital chimes. It is measured by light and by the seasons. And in a Roman house, the seasons enter right through the roof. Livia learns to read the compluvium, that open square in the ceiling of the atrium, like a calendar. First comes the heat of the Roman summer. The sun hangs high and fierce above the opening. At midday, a solid square of blinding white light stamps itself onto the mosaic floor. The heat is heavy, pressing down on the city like a physical weight. During these hours, the house goes dormant. This is the siesta. The shutters are closed against the glare. The servants doze in the cool shadows of the corridors. Livia sits in the peristyle garden, where the air is slightly cooler under the shade of the lemon trees. She listens to the cicadas buzzing in the cypress trees outside, an endless drilling sound that seems to vibrate in the heat. Zzz, zzz. It is a time of slow, thick silence. She fans herself with a palm leaf. She watches a lizard scuttle across the hot stone pavement and freeze, pulsing with life. She feels the sweat trickling down her back under her stola. The house is a cave, protecting her from the sun, and she is its keeper. Then the light shifts, the angle of the sun drops, the shadows in the atrium grow longer and cooler. Autumn arrives. The sky above the roof turns a bruised purple. The wind picks up, swirling dry leaves down through the opening, scattering them across the pristine floor. And then the rain. Rain in a Roman house is a sensory experience. It does not hit a roof and run off into gutters. It falls straight into the heart of the home. Livia stands by the impluvium, the shallow pool in the center of the room, and watches the water fall. It hits the surface of the pool with a steady, hypnotic rhythm. Plip, plop, plip, plop. The sound fills the house. It drowns out the noise of the carts in the street. It drowns out the chatter of the servants. It is a curtain of white noise, enclosing the family in a watery cocoon. Livia watches the water level rise. She watches the reflection of the gray clouds rippling in the dark water. The smell of wet stone, damp wool, and ozone fills the air. This is the rhythm of her life now. It is not determined by her own whims, but by the needs of the house and the dictates of the sky.
She is grounded. She is as much a part of the architecture as the pillars or the hearth. There are times when she must leave the sanctuary of the walls. A Roman Watrona has duties outside the home. She must attend festivals. She must visit the temples. She must visit the wives of her husband's clients. When Livia steps out of the heavy oak door, the same door she was carried through on her wedding night, she is transformed. She wears the stola, the long pleated dress of the married woman, fastened at the shoulders with gold fibulae. She wraps herself in the palla, a large rectangular shawl that covers her head and body. She walks through the streets of Rome, but she does not walk as she did as a child. She walks with gravitas. The crowd parts for her. Men step aside to let her pass. In the rough, chaotic, male-dominated world of Rome, the Matrona is an island of sanctity. She is untouchable. She is the mother of citizens. Livia keeps her eyes forward. She does not look at the beggars. She does not look at the shopkeepers shouting their wares. She moves through the noise like a ship cutting through rough water, steady, silent, and contained. But inside the layers of wool, she is observing. She sees the changing fashions in the jewelry shops. She sees the new graffiti scratched onto the walls. She feels the mood of the city. Is it angry? Is it celebratory? Is it hungry? She gathers this information and brings it back to the house, like a bee bringing pollen back to the hive. She shares it with Gaius in the quiet of the evening meal. They are partners now. The awkward silence of the wedding night has been replaced by the comfortable silence of companionship. They do not need to speak to understand each other. They are two wheels on the same chariot, turning in unison.
One afternoon, in the deep quiet of winter, Livia finds herself standing before the armaria in the atrium, the wooden cabinets that hold the ancestor masks. The doors of the cabinet are open. Inside, the wax faces stare out. They are realistic, molded from the faces of the dead. There are sunken cheeks, hooked noses, stern brows. These are the men and women who built this family. They are the invisible jury that watches everything Livia does. At first, they terrified her. They were strangers, judging her from the afterlife. But now, after months of tending their fire, after months of cleaning their shrine, she feels a kinship. She takes a cloth and gently dusts the wooden shelf. She straightens a mask that sits slightly askew. "I am keeping the fire," she whispers to them. "The wool is spun. The pantry is full. You have nothing to worry about." She realizes that one day she too will be a mask. One day she will be a story told to a new bride standing terrified in this atrium. She is just one link in a chain that stretches back to the founding of the city and forward into an unknowable future. This thought does not depress her. It comforts her. It removes the pressure of the individual self. She does not have to be extraordinary. She only has to be faithful. She only has to hold the line. The year turns. The festival of Saturnalia comes and goes with its gambling and gifts. The calends of January arrive, bringing new consuls and new vows. Livia's hands change. They are no longer the soft, idle hands of a girl. They are stronger. The tips of her fingers are slightly roughened from the wool and the keys. There is a small callus on her thumb from the spindle. She knows the house now better than she knows her own body. She knows which floorboard creaks in the hallway. She knows exactly how the light hits the fresco of Venus in the bedroom at sunrise. She knows the mood of the slaves by the way they walk. She has taken root. Like a vine planted against a stone wall, she has curled her tendrils into the cracks and crevices of this life. She is holding it together. The sun sets on another day. The sky above the atrium turns a deep, velvety indigo. Livia moves around the room, lighting the lamps. Flicker. Glow. One by one, she pushes back the dark. The shadows dance. The house settles in for the night. The water in the pool is still.
The fire in the hearth is a bed of glowing coals, banking down for the sleep. Livia stands in the center of her world. She is tired, but it is a good tiredness. It is the exhaustion of purpose. She touches the keys at her belt one last time, a habit now. She is ready for the night. She is ready for the rest.
Time in Rome does not march. It flows. It moves like the waters of the Tiber River, sometimes muddy and turbulent, sometimes clear and slow, but always moving in one direction, toward the sea of eternity. For Livia, the days turn into years. The years turn into decades. The white wool tunic of the bride is replaced by the darker stola of the matron, and eventually by the soft gray wool of old age. The house remains the same, though the people within it change. The sunlight strikes the mosaic floor in the exact same square pattern every summer. The rain falls into the impluvium with the same rhythmic drumming every autumn. The seasons are the true owners of the house. The people are merely its guests. Livia's life becomes a series of quiet repetitions. This is the boring history that is never written in the scrolls of the wars. It is the history of the loom. Slide, thud, slide, thud. A million movements of the arm to clothe a generation. It is the history of the keys. The iron ring at her belt wears smooth against her hip. The metal shines, polished by 50 years of touch. She opens the storeroom 10,000 times. She counts the jars of oil. She inspects the grain. She ensures survival. She watches her children grow. She watches them stand in the atrium, dressed in their own white tunics, ready to leave, ready to be taken, ready to start the cycle again. She ties the knot of Hercules around her own daughter's waist. She weeps the ritual tears. She stands by the pool and watches the door close, just as her mother watched her. The script does not change. The actors simply swap roles. And then, one day, the rhythm stops. The loom stands silent in the corner of the atrium. The shuttle gathers dust. The fire in the hearth burns low, waiting for a hand that does not come. Livia lies in the cubiculum. The room is dim, lit by the same small oil lamps that watched over her wedding night. The shadows are soft. The air is still. She is tired. It is a profound, heavy tiredness that goes down to the bone. She has carried the weight of the house for a lifetime. She has been the keeper of the flame, the weaver of the wool, the guardian of the door. She has performed her duty. The contract is fulfilled. She reaches to her belt. She unhooks the ring of iron keys. Her hand is thin now, the skin like parchment, mapped with the blue veins of age. She holds the keys out. A younger woman stands beside the bed, a daughter-in-law, a new mater familias. The younger woman takes the keys. The weight transfers. The metal clinks softly. Livia closes her eyes. The burden is lifted. The anxiety of the storehouse, the worry of the harvest, the vigilance against the omens, it all floats away. She is no longer property. She is no longer a manager. She is drifting back into the great dark silence from which she came. She becomes an ancestor. Her face is cast in wax. Her image is placed in the wooden cabinet in the atrium. She joins the silent jury on the shelves. She becomes a memory, then a name, and finally just a presence in the house, a part of the atmosphere, watching the sunlight move across the floor. Now, let us step back. Let us leave the year 100 AD. Let us travel forward through the centuries. The Roman Empire falls. The barbarians come. The roof of the villa collapses.
The tiles shatter on the mosaic floor. The rain enters, not as a guest, but as a conqueror. The loom rots. The wax masks melt in the heat of a fire. The keys rust into the earth. Centuries pass. The dirt covers the stone. Grass grows over the threshold. The city of Rome rises and falls and rises again, building layer upon layer over the past. Today, if you walk through the Forum in Rome, you see the skeletons of this world. You see the broken pillars of the temples, bleached white by the sun. You see the arches of brick, stripped of their marble skin. It is quiet there. The tourists wander through, speaking in hushed voices. They look at the stones and try to imagine the noise, the color, the shouting of the crowds. But the noise is gone. The shouting is gone. What remains is the silence. It is the silence of the stone. It is the silence of the history that was lived in private. Somewhere, buried deep beneath the modern streets, are the remains of Livia's house. The mosaic floor is still there, hidden in the dark. The waltz grease on the doorpost is long gone, but the stone remembers the touch. This story, the story of the bride, the veil, the contract, is not a story of tragedy. It is a story of endurance. It reminds us that our lives, with all their fierce anxieties and loud worries, are brief sparks in the long night of time. The rituals we perform, the contracts we sign, the keys we carry, they are important to us now, just as they were to Livia. But eventually, we lay them down. Eventually, the keys are passed on. The sun has set on Rome. The sun has set on Livia. And now the sun has set on your day as well. Think of the peace of that ancient house at night. Think of the atrium empty and cool, with the stars reflecting in the pool of water. Think of the fire banked down to glowing embers, warm and safe. There is no more work to be done. The wool is spun. The door is locked. The omens are quiet. You do not need to worry about the storehouse. You do not need to worry about the harvest. You do not need to worry about the future. The history is written. The stone is set.
You can let go of the keys. You can let go of the weight.
Imagine yourself lying in that small, quiet room, the walls painted with garden scenes, the air smelling of lavender and cedar. The darkness is soft. It is a blanket of wool, heavy and comforting. The river of time is flowing past you, slow and steady. It carries away the noise. It carries away the names. It carries away the day. You are safe in the silence of history. You are safe in the deep, ancient quiet. The lamp is blown out. The flame is gone. There is only the dark and the peace and the rest. Sleep now.